I've got a special gift I want to make for my wife. I grabbed this old hutch for free and I want to do some magic with it. First things first, got to get all these doors off. I also want to get it all cleaned out, and I used an air blower. As you can see, it is really dirty and really dusty. I also need to make sure all the surfaces are clean because we're going to prime and paint. Also, I need to get all of the hardware off of the doors. I don't need those anymore, but the hinges I do need and I will save for later. Next thing, I need to get some primer on all of the wood parts. I'm going to put them on the shelves and on the side and inside of the hutch. A good primer is what is needed to keep the paint from sticking and keep it from peeling. When you get the primer on, you want it to set for a good 24 hours. Now I'm going to go to a good cabinet paint and put it jet black. I love this color. It does take a couple of coats, sometimes 3, because it's going to give you a nice smooth finish. Once that's drying, I'm going to hit those hinges with some gold paint, make them look really nice. The next step, I'm going to grab some pre-primed shiplap and I'm going to start cutting that because it's going to go into the back of my hutch. I'm going to cut as many pieces as I need. Once I get those ready, I need to paint them. Again, it's going to take 2 coats of some nice white cabinet paint. I'm going to paint all of these shiplap pieces, making sure I also get the sides. Then I'm going to use some glue because I want to fasten it to the back of the hutch. This glue is really strong, but I also, what you don't see here, is I use a staple gun to put it in place. Once I get all of these pieces on, it's time to put the shelves back in. These again look really nice and really smooth. Back to the doors, I'm going to put some hardware on there. I grabbed these gold pieces and they look really good against the black. Then I found some glass that I'm going to use to fill in the doors with. I want to give them a fluted look. So I grabbed some liner that I ordered off Amazon and I cut them to size. These fluted pieces are really good and you just roll them out and again, trim them as you need. You're also going to peel the backs off of them. Now, when you pull the backs off, they actually don't stick just like that. Look at that. It just comes right off. What you have to do is take a spray bottle and spray it with some nice clean water. And you're going to do this also to the back side of the fluted sheet. Spread that over, take it, smooth it out, and then you're going to use a little squeegee and you're going to start squeegeeing the water out between the two of them. This allows the fluted sheet to stick to the glass. You can also use plexiglass if you want, but the glass is nice and clear and gives it a great look. Once I get it squeegeed out, I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm going to trim off the sides, all 4 sides. Once that's trimmed up, it's time to put the glass panels into the doors, and then I use these little hooks that I got that squeeze together and put them on. Now that I got it, look at how amazing this looks. Let's take that hutch inside, put the doors on, and look at this. It absolutely looks amazing. I know my wife's going to love it. And what I love the most about it is those fluted doors. They look awesome. I hope this inspired you to take an old hutch or any type of furniture and recycle as you need.
If you are in the market for a couple of side tables or nightstands, consider an old vintage vanity instead. First up, I need to take it apart. I'm removing all the drawers, then studying how the vanity is built. Since this vanity is nailed together, I'm wedging a pry bar between the backboard and vanity, then hitting it with a rubber mallet to pull the boards apart. Now I'm checking where all the nails and joins are and removing whatever nails I can with a nail remover tool. However, for the most part, the crowbars, lots of pounding, and finally pulling apart the pieces by hand did the trick. Now I'm removing all the knobs from the drawers and attaching the original screws into the back so they don't get lost. I'm placing all the drawers onto some butcher paper with the varnished sides facing up along with the vanity. To strip off the varnish, I'm using a product called QCS by Stripwell, which is a non-toxic remover. I'm spraying the remover on all the varnished tops of the vanity and drawer tops, then allowing the product to sit for about 10 minutes. Using a putty knife, I'm scraping off the varnish. Most of the pieces needed 2 passes for everything. Now using a surface cleanser, I'm spraying it wherever the varnish was removed, then wiping the furniture clean with a rag. Next up is repairing the sides. Using an orbital sander, I'm sanding over the damaged areas of the nightstands, plus also scuff sanding the rest of the sides to prepare them for the next step. I'm using a putty knife to apply wood filler to smooth out any indents, nooks, and crannies. Some of the holes were very deep, so they required 2 coats with drying time in between. After several days of drying time, I'm sanding the putty smooth, then following up with an orbital sander to areas that needed a little extra work. Now I'm removing all the sanding dust using a tack cloth. Choosing a deep and beautiful paint color called Cast Iron by Fusion Mineral Paint, I'm painting all the small trim work with a smaller artist's brush. Since the sides are smooth and large, I'm choosing to paint them using a high-quality Stahlmeister velour roller I pick up through Fusion Mineral Paint to achieve a flawless finish with no brush strokes. I'm rolling on the paint with long, even strokes with an attempt to always work against a wet paint edge. What works best is to roll on all the paint, then slowly roll over it again from end to end with no stops in between to achieve the smoothest finish possible. To paint the drawer pulls, I'm using the screws to hold the knobs while I paint, then setting them down on egg cartons to dry. Now that the paint has set, I'm removing the painter's tape to allow the piece to completely dry. To protect the fronts of the drawers and the tops of the nightstands, I'm using Stain and Finishing Oil in Natural by Fusion Mineral Paint. This is a very easy wipe-on, wipe-off product to work with, and the durability it offers is floor quality. I'm brushing on the Stain and Finishing Oil until my chosen surface is completely covered, allowing it to sit for a few minutes, then wiping the product back off again with a clean lint-free rag. I allow this product to dry overnight. Once the paint has cured for about 30 days, I'll also be adding a coat of natural Stain and Finishing Oil on that as well for added furniture durability. And the final result are two absolutely stunning high-quality nightstands or side tables that are customized to suit my home. The tone of wood now looks so fresh and rich and feels as smooth as silk, which really pops against the decadent deep tone of cast iron, making this a gorgeous and timeless combination.
I saw this dresser on Facebook Marketplace and I knew I could bring it back to life. So I brought it home, set it on some cardboard, and it's time to get to work. First step, take out the top 3 drawers. I don't need those. I want an open space concept, but I'm going to keep the bottom 2, but then I need to remove the hardware from the 3 drawers and get that cleaned up for shelves. I also want to save the handles. Instead of buying new handles, why don't I just refinish those also? I'm going to take them off, even if I'm not going to use them all, and I'm going to paint them. First step though is to get them on a piece of cardboard so I can spray them, and also it's best to use 2 to 3 small coats instead of one thick one because then it won't run. Next, after that's drying, it's time to clean up the drawers and the cabinet itself, and I need to put on some primer. This is important. Primer gives the paint something to adhere to. That way the paint doesn't peel off later. I'm going to take the drawers, put on a nice coat of paint with the foam roller, and then I'm also going to do it to the cabinet itself, on the inside and the outside. While that's drying, it's time to build the 3 shelves that I need. So I had some scrap plywood hanging around the house, and I cut those up. The plywood was a little thick for my taste, but it's going to work great. Once I get the shelves installed, then I'm going to go ahead and paint the cabinet itself and use a nice white cabinet paint. 2 or 3 coats will do the job. But when it comes to the drawer, I'm going to use a gray cabinet paint. I want it to stand out and give it a two-tone a little bit. So I'm going to get that painted also. This one only took 2 coats. Now here's the key to this whole project. I'm going to build some new doors for the cabinet itself. Using a 1x3, I'm going to cut those to pieces right there, make 2 of them, and put them together. I'm also going to mark where I'm going to join the pieces. I'm going to use my nifty Craig jig. I love this tool. It's great. I can drill it, and it's going to give me some hidden screws when I use it. Watch this. After it's drilled, that's where the screws go. Gives it a nice professional look. I'm going to put some glue on the edges, put those together, and I can either clamp them, but watch this. When I put them together, put some screws in there, and then I join them together with those screws. You can also stick some wood dowels in there to hide the pieces. Now these drawers are also going to get the gray paint. So I'm going to get those painted. Once they're dry, on the back side of these doors, I'm going to put some chicken wire. I'm going to use my pneumatic stapler to put them together. Once I do that, I can put it all the way around, and it's going to look really good, but we want to make sure that it is secured. I'm going to go all the way around the edges and make sure it's nice and tight. Now I'm going to take the handle that I painted and I'm going to install that right there. And it's starting to look really good. The same for the drawers. Doesn't that look a lot better how it's all painted? I'm going to get this installed, make sure it's nice and tight, and then I got to put the hinges on the doors. These are just small 1.5 inch size hinges. They're working perfect. Put those in. Take the cabinet inside, and then I'm going to install the doors straight on there. Do you remember what that cabinet used to look like? Well, here it is, and look at that cotton bale. I love that little decor right there. It's great to turn this into a farmhouse kitchen pantry. I love how it turned out, especially with the white and the gray.
Take some colorful plastic eggs and glue the top lid to the bottom lid and apply some thin jute twine. Wrap the egg top with jute twine. Using colorful bendable wire, wrap the jute top in a circular but random pattern and then create a cute curly Q wire top. Have fun displaying your new fanciful fall acorns. Grab some pipe cleaners, fold each pipe cleaner in half, and then start to thread gold pony beads. Take 2 of the folded pipe cleaners and twist them around each other once. Take a third and then a fourth pipe cleaner. Gather the ends of the pipe cleaners together. Take some raffia, clip the tops of the loops, create 3 raffia bundles, and tie them to the base. Display your new colorful crafted corn.
I'm going to start with this styrofoam plastic pumpkin. I'm going to begin hot gluing and wrapping the pumpkin. Bring the other corner across. I do want to cut out a circle for the top first, so I'm just going to trace around on some black canvas fabric, and then I'm going to hot glue that around. So I'm going to add the glue to the circle that we cut out, cut a slit, and I'm going to push the barbecue skewer through, and this makes the form of our hat here just to create a little decorative finish. Secure the fur beard in place. Then I'm going to take a wooden bead for the nose, and I work that under the nose as a little mustache. So I'm just going to add some glue to the bottoms of those and stick those in place. It is the most adorable turkey gnome I have seen.
This is a Dollar Tree waste paper basket. Spray it with rustic orange spray paint. Feed the string right through, and then just tie this cut along the bottom of the bats. It kind of looks like a smile. I'm going to cut out a triangle and just press this right on. You're going to bend it in half. Take a pipe cleaner and pull it through really tight around. Give our scarecrow some straw hair, and we will give our scarecrow a nice little hat, but I'm going to give him a little plaid bow. Here is our little scarecrow all ready to greet friends by the front door.
I don't know about you, but I can never pass up these gorgeous gourds. And just scrub off the mold, the dirt. I have put a few coats of crackling medium. Now I'm going to use a glue gun to create a pattern on the gourd. Drag it down and make a vine. Now we're going to paint the gourd and go all the way around your gourd. See the crackling process start to happen. I'm simply using a little bit of dark wax and clear wax on the entire gourd. For my second gourd, I wanted it to look like I dripped white wax all around the top. I even went back and put a couple drips on top of some of the other drips to make it. I'm using a dye made by Gourd Master, and I'm putting it on with a shoe dye applicator, and I'm just rubbing it on the gourd. It's time to spray them with a clear varnish. And look what you get, this beautiful tablescape.
What you're going to need for this craft, of course, is a pumpkin, and you're going to need 5 wooden spoons and also a spatula. I actually found these at my local thrift store. The larger ones I'm going to go and paint orange, and the smaller ones I'm going to paint yellow. So after these are all painted, go and move on to the spatula. I'm using an off gray color, and after the gray has dried, I'm going to go and start to paint on a beak. And after the beak has been painted down, then you can go and paint your gobbler. Then go and paint some eyes. I used this fork that I painted as well to give my turkey just some little hair and make him look cute. I'm going to go and use a regular pumpkin carving tool, making sure that my wooden spoons will fit. So I cut out this piece and made sure it all fit. 2 orange in the back and 1 yellow in the middle. And then I gave the turkey a little tie. I brought my pumpkin outside. You don't have to bring this pumpkin turkey outside though. You can always use it to decorate your fall tables.
So I've just taken some floral wire, and I'm going to go ahead and find the center of my pom-pom, put a little dab of glue in there, poke the end of the wire right into the middle of the pom-pom. I'm going to loop it back here, and then I'm going to start bringing my sunflowers right around the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and add a second one and just keep going around the tree. It's time to add those super fun pom-poms. The last thing I want to do to finish off my tree is make a little bow for the top, and I'm going to use this burlap ribbon and fluff it out a little bit, and I'll attach that with a piece of floral wire right in the middle. I hope this has inspired you to pull out your Christmas tree early and decorate it for fall.
I went to Walmart and I found this beautiful tool. Here is our dollar store foam frame, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our pieces of cut tulle and tie it in a slip knot right on top of this. So we're going to come back in with each color. We have The yellow, we have orange, black, and red, and we're going to just alternate between each. So let's repeat that layer over and over again. And if there's anything sticking too far out, you can always just trim it up. So I'm going to take the black tool, we're going to just fold it over a little bit, and this is the back of the wreath. We're going to take a few floral pins and insert them. Then what you can do is you can start wrapping it with this beautiful black tool. We're going to do one final wrap, cut off the excess, and then I'm going to flip it over, create a little ball with all of that excess tulle, take some floral pins and poke them right in. Now we have mini styrofoam balls, and we're going to use these for the eyes. Then we also have some of these googly eyes. Grab my glue skillet, dip a little toothpick in it, and poke that right into the styrofoam. Then we can take another toothpick, grab a little more hot glue, and create your little eyes. So I glued 2 toothpicks right into the base, take our styrofoam head, and poke it right inside. Now we have our cute little eyeballs, and we're just going to poke them in. So now I have some yellow ribbon, and we're just going to cut off a little section of it, and we'll just roll it up into a cone. Take a toothpick with a little hot glue on it, and then wait for that to dry. We're just going to apply some hot glue, and we'll just place them. Cut off a little bit of red yarn, and that's going to simulate the wattle, and place it on. And here's how our tulle turkey turned out. I think it turned out so stinking cute, and it was so incredibly easy to make.
I picked up these 3 little wooden crates. So I've mixed up some brown milk paint that you just want to water down. And I want to make sure that I paint all sides and the inside. While my little crates are drying, the paint are these little gourds and pumpkins that I picked up at the dollar store. So I'm just going to take some of this pearl metallic paint, and I just want to kind of brush it all over these just to tone this down a little bit. To hold these crates together, I'm just going to put some hot glue on the ends. And I'm just going to slide them together and hold them while they dry. I want to add some of this beautiful ribbon that I found. So I've gone ahead and made a little cut in the end just to make this a little nicer. So I'm just going to start by attaching the straight end to the one side. I'm going to put a little bit of glue, attach this down and around the end. And then we're going to go to the other side. I want to go ahead and put a little bit of floral foam in each one. I'm just going to take my knife, mark off where this would hit the top, and I'm just going to trim it a little bit shorter than where that is. And I'm just going to use a serrated knife and cut right down. I'm going to put a little bit of the hot glue, just a couple dabs down at the bottom, and that will hold my piece of foam right down there in place. So now we've got our Florifoam inside the crates, and it's time to start filling those crates with some fall flowers. And don't forget, we have those little gourds and pumpkins that we added the white pearl to, and we can add those in as well. Once you have this with a nice amount of things in here, you want to grab some moss to finish this off. These little crates were perfect to turn into a fall centerpiece. It was quick and easy, and I absolutely love how it turned out.
I'm going to use a razor blade to scrape anything stuck. Now I'm giving the windows a good clean. Going by my chosen design, I'm now marking measurements on the door's framework along the middle, sides, and top. Now I'm unrolling the vinyl tape to the full width of both glass doors combined, plus a little extra. Now I'm attaching the tape to the right side of the door glass, then removing the backing paper. Only now will I run my finger along the entire tape to stick it down to the glass. To create the vertical sections, I'm sticking the tape to the top of the glass, then down just below the horizontal tape, then trimming the ends using an X-Acto knife. For this window, I'm marking off all the measurements in pencil along the window's frame sides, middle, and top. Next, I'm running the entire length of horizontal tape first, then I'm sticking the rest of the tape down with my finger and trimming the ends.
Measured the window, grabbed a 1x6 piece of board that was 4 foot long, and started doing a little bit of sanding to it. Next step was to go ahead and put some stain on it. Go ahead and mark it on the back of the board and go ahead and install the hardware using the screw that comes with it. Next, we need to put our hooks up, and we want to make sure that we pre-drill each one of these holes. Then you're going to go ahead and put screws in the wall. You don't want the screw going flush against the wall. Make sure it sticks out a little bit. Then take the board and you're going to slip it inside the drill hole that you did right inside the hardware. The next step is to grab some clip rings, clip it on, and just hang it over your hook.
Grab some Elmer's school glue for this renter-friendly project. First, I gave my window a really good cleaning. Grab some masking tape to mask out an abstract design, and then I'm going to take my Elmer's glue and pour it straight into the tray. Then I just rolled my glue onto the window. I removed that masking tape before the Elmer's glue could dry.
Grab 2 painter drop cloths at your local home improvement store. Then place them in the washer and dryer. My drop cloths were about 12 inches too long for my windows, so I ended up folding 12 inches over the top of the drop cloth first. Then I used some curtain clips and starting 1 inch from the top, placed them across the drop cloth. I used a tape measure to space them out exactly 3 inches apart. As a finishing touch, I steamed some of the wrinkles out of the curtains while they were hanging as well.
So I'm starting by cutting 2-inch strips of fabric. I'm going to fold a strip in half and just use an iron to create a seam so that they stay folded together. I'm going to use some quick dry fabric glue to attach this trim right over the existing blue trim. Once that dries, I'm going to flip this over and add glue to the backside as well. And I'm just going to push those metal hooks through the holes in the beach mat.
We need a skinny roll of tape. And we also need some clear Elmer's glue. And our template for today is going to be an outside window. We got to put some of that tape on the window. Now, you can go ahead and take the tape and mask it to the grid that's already on the window, or you can just go random like I'm doing it. But the next step to this is we to grab that Elmer's glue. Once we get some paint in there, all you got to do is just go back and forth with it, and it shakes up really nice. Next, move on to your second color. These are our 4 colors we're going to go with. Now, because it's on the Elmer's glue, it's actually non-toxic, and I used a foam brush to transfer it to the window. It's going to take multiple coats, but the glue and the paint dries really fast. You can actually put a coat on within an hour after you put it on. Once it dries overnight, you're going to take a knife and very gently, we don't want to scratch the window. If you try to pull the tape with it out using the knife, it may pull the glue off. Just go ahead and start pulling the tape off. It's another thing. When you're done with this and you want to change it or just take it off later, it peels right off.
We're going to start with a roll of window film. I'm going to cut a sheet of film just a little bit larger than the size of my glass. Now, using a pencil, I'm just going to sketch a design, and I'm just going to slowly cut out each piece. So spray your window with water, and then grab that first cut out piece and then gently place it onto the window, using that squeegee each time and just pressing down really well. Just cut off these edges here. You want to make sure to dry any excess water.
Check out what I found at the dollar store that's going to completely upgrade my builder grade blinds. To get the burlap ready to use, I want to finish the edges. And I'm going to use my low temp glue gun and then fold the burlap over. I want to make a pocket for the curtain rod to go through. I'm going to fold over the top edge about 2 or 2.5 inches. I'm going to do this to the entire length of the burlap until I get to the other end. I'm going to remove the end of the rod and then just slip the rod right through that gap that I created at the top of the burlap. I'm going to measure out 2 pieces of twine, scrunch them up, and tie the twine.
So I am going to measure out 8 inches and then I am going to cut out a strip. You can just kind of bend this, cut another strip of foam board the same length. And I'm going to cut 4 of these 3-inch pieces. We're gonna put a little hot glue on the edge and attach it to the side here and push it in there to hold it square. So again, a little bit of hot glue on the edges. So this is gonna help us just hold that batting in place while we get everything else on. Spray it on the edges a little bit here and bring it up. So we're just gonna put a little hot glue along the edges, attaching the fabric to the foam board. These are actually picture hanging strips, and we're just gonna put it in place.
over to your local Walmart and grab a few sprigs of greenery. I place the pool noodle next to the top of the planter and marked a line. Then I cut the pool noodle with a knife to the mark. After that, I place the pool noodle pieces along with some empty water bottles inside the planter to keep everything in the center and weighted down. Then I placed the sprigs of faux greenery inside the holes of the pool noodles and fluffed it all out.
Grab some pots, plants, and rebar from your local home improvement store. Start by placing a generous layer of rocks or gravel, then fill your pots with your selected plants. Once your plants are potted, begin stacking your pots. Insert the rebar into the bottom pot, making sure it comes through the drainage hole at the bottom and rests on the saucer.
I've got an area on the side of my house that is just ugly with an old hose. Take some handles and also the base for a planter, and I'm going to put these handles on the side. Go ahead and put both sides on and make sure you get them nice and tight, but we're going to flip it over because we need to drill some drain holes. Once we got these holes drilled, turn it back over and we're going to use some succulent potting soil. And then you can begin to go ahead and transplant your succulents over to this base. On the planter though, we need to drill a hole about halfway up, and that's how we're going to put the hose in. So we also want to put some drain holes in the bottom of this planter. Now the last thing we got to do is put some wood in there. That's going to hold this lid up. Once you got it, make sure you do 2 on each side. Make sure you also get that garden hose through.
You're going to need 6 plain wood crates. I am going to use spray paint in 3 different colors. Once the paint is dry, I'm going to seal these crates. So I grabbed some 2x2 pieces of wood and I'm going to cut them down to size. Then you're going to sand down the edges and stain this. Now that the stain and paint is dry, it's time to lay this out and dry fit everything. Then using a drill, just add pilot holes and then 2-inch screws to hold everything together. Once everything is assembled, it's time to put it in place.
Ran down to Home Depot and picked up some beautiful flowers as well as 2 of these different hanging baskets. I removed the chain from both of the baskets and ended up removing the insert from one of the baskets. I opened everything up, placed my flowers inside, closed it again with the top frame on the top, lined up the holes, and added zip ties to hold everything together securely. My next step was to add the lights. These are solar powered lights, so they'll work great when I use them outside. Once it was all wrapped and ready, I was able to just let it sit in the sun for a few hours so that it could charge up. I grabbed 1 basket and 10 of these wooden pieces. I set to work staining them using these easy staining cloths. Once they were dry, I set up 2 of the wooden pieces vertically, and then I added the rest of my wooden pieces horizontally. Used some 1-inch nails and put those in place. I had purchased these 4-inch house numbers. I nailed these into place. The next thing I did to finish it up was to add some pretty flowers.
First step I'm going to do is start clearing out some of these big flat rocks. I got to get the base ready. Next step is to take a small 2x4 and screed the area. That helps level the soil. I want to make sure it is nice and level. Now it's time for the first block. Put that down, shake it a little bit so that it feels nice and firm. We're going to actually keep doing this up and down as we go. Once you get that base done, put that 2x4 across and make sure it's level. Now it's time for some construction adhesive. We don't want to put too much on. We just need to make sure those bricks don't slide and break and fall whenever we put them together. And then I cut a nice big piece of redwood board that fits on top. I grab these from the hardware store and I go ahead and separate the roots a little bit and put some nice potting soil in. These pots will slide right down in and take the form of the cavity that we're putting them in.
I scooped up this metal filing cabinet from Facebook Marketplace. I took it out of my van and I put it up on some raised ladders and I removed all the drawers. Then I'm going to come in with this rust paint and I'm going to paint the entire filing cabinet. Then I'm going to use my drill and I'm going to drill in some holes in the bottom. To weight it down, I'm going to be putting in 2 bags of pea stone gravel. Then I'm going to go to my yard and I collected all these old leaves. This is great because I'm going to fill up the bulk of the cabinet with the leaves. So I fill it up till there's about a quarter left at the top, and then I fill that last quarter with my potting mix. Then I'm going to go ahead and plant in my flowers.
Grab tin cans and a napkin for this brilliant porch decor. I washed 3 tin cans from the recycling, removed the labels, and scuffed up the surface with a wire brush. I wiped clean with a cloth and spray painted the outside of each can with Rust-Oleum paint and primer white spray paint. While that was drying, I spray painted some metal chain black. I set that aside to dry. I used a small drill bit to drill 3 holes evenly spaced along the top edge of the tin can. I drilled holes in the same spots at the bottom edge and the same spots again at the very bottom of the tin can. Then I cut the napkins into smaller pieces and cut around the birds. I painted outdoor Mod Podge on the tin can, placed the napkin pieces on, and sealed it with more Mod Podge. I did this for all 3 tin cans, then used a nail to poke through the holes I drilled to make sure the glue didn't close them over. I let the cans dry. 24 hours is ideal.
Look for flowers in a multi-pack that can be split apart. Take your laundry basket and drill several holes in the bottom with a drill. Line the laundry basket with a burlap bag or burlap fabric. Start to fill the burlap-lined laundry basket with potting soil. Fill to about 1 inch from the top of the basket. Cut the excess burlap from the top of the basket with some scissors. Starting with the second row of side basket holes, cut the plastic between 2 holes to create 1 larger hole. Then cut out the burlap from that larger hole to access the dirt. Take one of your plants and plant it in the hole by pushing it into the dirt behind it. It helps to use your other hand to grab the plant as it comes through the hole and press dirt down around it on the inside of the basket. Once you have the sides of your basket planted, you can plant the top.
Time to run down to your local baker and grab a big old container of cookies. But even though those cookies are yummy, what we want is that decorative lid. We're going to measure it straight across and get about 10 inches. Lay out some cardboard and we're going to pick a bowl that's round for us to mark. Just go ahead and lay it on the cardboard and take a marking pen and get you that perfect circle. Now it's time to mix up our cement. Once we get it mixed, carefully lay it inside the bucket. You can see the consistency here is like some really good pudding. Now, once you get the right amount in, you're going to go ahead and just shake it all up. Cut some strips of wood. This one is going to be full 10 inches across and the other ones are going to be 4 each. And then glue up the ends, lay it out and fold it in. We want to make sure that all the pieces of the wood fit inside the circle. Take some popsicle sticks and some hot glue. You're going to lay this across the top. This is going to be our clamp that is going to hold the pieces together while that wood glue dries. Flip it over. We're going to do the other side also. Once you get these pieces on, it's so strong, it's time to go ahead and drill them because we want to put these caster legs on there. All we need to do is take some hot glue, put it in, and all 4 wheels go right in there. Now it's time to take those wood and the wheels and we're going to just shake it back and forth. Let it sink right into the concrete. Let it dry for about 24 hours. Go ahead and turn it back over after that 24 hours is up. We're going to use a knife and we're going to start cutting away the plastic. We need to get some air in there. That's what's going to release our mold from the concrete. Look at that smooth, beautiful concrete.
I grabbed a 14-inch grapevine and I spray painted it black. Then I went to my local craft store and I found some fairy lights. Start wrapping the wreath with the lights. So now to secure your battery pack, what you can do is just take it, wrap it around itself, place it on the back of your wreath. We're going to take a pipe cleaner and then just secure like so. Now we have these bat sprays. So we're going to cut off each bat individually using our wire snips. So we're going to take our bat pick, dip it in our glue skillet, and then working these adorable bats right into the black grapevine. You can do this with ghosts, you can do this with pumpkins, place them however you would like. So here is how the wreath turned out, you guys, and I absolutely love it. So you can make this wreath easily for less than $10-15.
Grab yourself a tomato cage. For this project, you're going to need a bunch of grapevine. So I began taking apart my tomato cage. So I cut off the bottom hoop and I'm going to zip tie the tomato cage to the wire wreath form. Then I'm going to take my natural grapevine and I'm going to begin by wrapping it in a circle around the base of the wreath form. And using more zip ties, I'm going to zip zip tie this on. I began to manipulate the tomato cage a little bit. I continued wrapping the grapevine around the tomato cage, working all the way up to the top. For my base, I wanted the brim to be a little bit wider, so I added more grapevine down at the bottom. I finished it off with some wire fairy lights, just wrapping it all around. And here it is on my porch, ready for fall and Halloween, a quirky, natural looking witch hat that also lights up at night because I put the fairy lights on.
You are going to grab some toilet paper rolls. Grab your hot glue gun and start dripping it off the top and just keep going all the way around each one. And I got these at the dollar store. So you're going to grab your hot glue again and just start dripping it on the inside to make it thick enough to hold your tea light. Then we're going to grab some black spray paint, let those dry, and then we're going to drop in each tea light, and you have some spooky, super easy DIY Halloween candles. Who's ready for Halloween? We're going to take just a basic little black cauldron and we're going to mix some chalk paint, and I mixed it with some baking soda. We're going to grab some potting soil and put it on top of the wet paint, pat it in there, and we're going to pat some more paint on there. And we're going to just keep doing this all the way around the pot. Then we're going to grab some Christmas ornaments. I already took the little tops off of them, grabbed some more paint, and I just painted that. And then I started adding in all my ornaments. So I just kept adding. Now I added some little twinkle lights. I added some skulls. And it looks like an old stone cauldron that you kind of dug up somewhere.
You're going to need some plastic tablecloth, pumpkin pails, and some tomato cages, and some lights. I'm going to start by placing the tomato cage upside down. With the part that sticks into the ground, I'm going to pull them all in together. Next, I'm going to take a pumpkin pail and place it upside down onto all of the prongs. Next, I'm going to take my lights and I'm going to use some painter's tape so that I can hold this in place at the top. But I'm going to wrap the lights around. Next, I'll be using a round plastic tablecloth from Dollar Tree. So now I need to make some eyes, and I'm going to be using some gaffer's tape here, and I've made a template out of a piece of paper. Here are all 3 ghosts lined up for the trick-or-treaters.
Time to head over to the dollar store and grab yourself like a little dollar platter. Grab a little bit of acrylic paint, mix it with a little bit of water, just start dabbing it on there. Go ahead and grab a napkin, and then you're going to start actually removing any excess. Let's go to our candle. So I went with a battery operated. Here what we're going to do is we're going to use the flame and melt the crayon onto the candle. Just let it drip on the back of the platter that is dry. Put a hook on the back. So just a little bit of hot glue, flip your platter over, grab another skeleton hand. I had to cut the back off because I need a lot of flat area. And what you're going to do is go ahead and grab your hot glue and get it all over there. Put it towards the bottom of the platter, put it on there and just hold it till it dries. Once this dries, we're going to put our candle on it, and there we are, our spooky Halloween candle holder right on the wall. And when the lights go off, oh, it's so beautiful.
So the first thing I need to do is remove the label from both sides, and I'm going to remove the lid. Next, I have some plastic spiders, and I'm just going to slide them into the soap. Place the lid back on top. I'm going to start by placing the skeleton. I'm going to take some cotton balls and fluff them around him, and then place those. There we go. I'm using one of those bud vases you can find at the dollar store. I have cut out a shape of a moth, cut a piece of fishing line, place this on the back. So I'm going to place the tape onto the top of the bud vase, and then my moth should hang in here. I purchased some candle holders at the thrift store, and now I'm going to place my bowl on top upside down. I'm gonna add this color changing LED light. I've got a battery operated votive. Place the wax over the candle. Now let's get decorating. And I hope this inspires you to create some bathroom decor of your own. We're going to be using these cute little black cauldrons. You can get them at Dollar Tree. We are going to be taking our sanding block and we are going to sand down the edges of our little cauldron. Doing the same thing to our paper towel holder. Acrylic paint, and we're going to mix it with some baking soda. We are going to go ahead and use our paint mixture. We are going to take some wire, and what I'm going to do is we're going to essentially be creating a handle. We are going to take some yarn. I'm just making a knot here. I'm going to go around, and you're just essentially
gonna wrap it. We are gonna take our 2 painted paper towel holders, and we are gonna take the dowel that we covered, and we are going to be attaching it to our paper towel holders with some wire. So we're just gonna twist, 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 and I'm wrapping the wire around. I'm going to be sliding the dowel out from one side, and I'm going to be placing my cauldrons on the dowel. We're gonna be taking some electrical tape. So I'm going to be covering up the wire, and I'm gonna cover both sides. I hope you feel inspired to try this cute witch's cauldron candy holder.
If you have any Christmas ornaments, this is the time they're going to come in really handy. So I've taken some of these ornaments and I'm giving them a light coat of white flat spray paint. And I picked up this cauldron that sits on a base and all of these fun colored ornaments. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut a piece of cardboard that will go right around here. I'm going to use some low temp glue, and then I'm going to glue that so that it will not move around. I happen to have this cardboard box, and I'm going to set that down in there. I have this Dollar Tree pumpkin. What I'm going to do is just break this apart because I want to just fill in a little space. So you're just going to glue this to the sides of your cauldron, and then you're going to glue it to the ornaments to each other. I got these great little battery operated spider lights. And what I'm going to do is just tuck them down in between our bubbles, which are ornaments. I have this heavy duty stick on Velcro, and I'm going to stick it right on the back. So here is my cord coming down. I put the other piece of the Velcro. So I'm going to be able to stick this right up here, and I will still be able to push the button to change the settings. I look forward to sharing this on my table at my Halloween party.